today I'm going to report the history of cataloging and classification of the ancient times. So before we proceed to the history of cataloging in ancient times, we will first answer the question, what is cataloging? So what is cataloging? Cataloging or catalogoing or library cataloging is the process of creating and maintaining bibliographic and authority records in the library catalog, the database of books, serials, sound recordings, moving images, cartographic materials, computer files, e-resources that are owned by a library. So in ancient times, the first known cataloging occurred with ancient clay tablets that had marks on each side of the tablet. According to the archaeologists, they also found lists of these tablets on separate tablets. Among the most ancient civilizations of the Western canon, in Mesopotamia and Egypt, archaeologists have found evidence of early records collections. Although little of the fragile materials used in Egyptian libraries has survived, circumstantial evidence suggests that systems of organizations of their contents were in place. So on the other hand, the Sumerians, Assyrians, and Babylonians have left behind abundant materials. So clay tablets have been found containing lists of gods, professions, incantations, geographical names, and also letters, commercial and family records, mythological narratives, hymns, laws, glossaries, and many more. In ancient times in the Orient, the title was the main element of identifying a work. In Greco-Roman practice, the author was emphasized. For example, classical works by Homer or Plato. One of the earliest examples of clay catalogs from the Sumerian city of Ur from some 5,000 years ago listed keywords from the first two lines of a hymn to identify its tablet. Among the Akkadians who replaced the Sumerians and built their first libraries around 2200 BC, the clay catalog contained instead the incipit for a single group tablets. In Mesopotamia, documents were held in palaces or temples and fulfilled administrative, religious, and scholarly purposes. Among the first librarians we know of was the Babylonian Amilanu, who lived approximately in 1700 BC. So Babylonian libraries were open to all end users, were handed a piece of papyrus to write their name on and the title of material they wished to see, so that the librarian would fetch it for them. But in Mesopotamia, they would not be familiar with self-fetching and browsing because that was not an option. The kind of cataloging they could rely on was typically a classified or class catalog. Example, catalog arranged by subject according to the classification system in place in each specific library. So the Royal Library of Ashurbanipal is one of the most famous library of Nineveh, and it was established by the king Ashurbanipal. The sizable collection was organized by subject in separate rooms. The tablets were kept in jars and arranged on wooden shelves in a systematic order, with each tablet numbered and four multi-tablet works. Each tablet presented the first line of the whole work as well as the first line of the succeeding tablet. Related works were held together in a basket whose tablet tag contained an indication of the set, the jar, the shelf, and the room. But outside of each room, an early form of catalog, also on clay, displayed a list of its contents, the title of works, opening words, number of tablets each consisted of, and location symbol. Although Mesopotamia lays to the first libraries of antiquity, evidence suggests that Egypt also had some as old and similarly arranged its papyrus rules according to content. So, it is also known that rules were kept in chests where a tablet or a pictorial representation on their cover indicated the books contained in them. The oldest surviving library catalog has effectively been discovered at the Temple Library of Edfu in Upper Egypt, early 3rd century BC, and it consists of a list of books engraved on the walls of the library itself. The fully fledged library catalog of antiquity comes into existence of the famous Library of Alexandria in Egypt. It was one of the largest and most significant libraries of the ancient world. So the first example of a universal library whose purpose was to acquire all the available knowledge and attract major writers, scholars, etc. to make it the century of learning. The poet Callimachus compiled a classified catalog consisting of 120 rules. It was made on slips of papyrus called penakes, or tables, where a short title was written which corresponded to the label on the appropriate papyrus rule. The main division of the catalog comprised epic writers, dramatic writers, writers on law, philosophical writers, historical writers, rhetorical works, miscellaneous works, and each was further subdivided with entries arranged either in alphabetical order by author or chronologically. Some sections, like philosophy, required additional data to avoid confusions. So what Callimachus did, he added a brief analysis of the works as well as a short profile of the author. The library staff in Alexandria also undertook the important task of recording the provenance of each rule, and who had improved the work. In modern terms, we would call this a publisher or editor, entities that in current International Cataloging Standards or ISBD and its various actualizations AACR2 and FRBR are considered essential information to describe a bibliographic item. So the library at Nineveh, the first classification system is believed to have been in Nineveh, which is present-day Iraq. Researchers have discovered that the Nineveh Empire built a library in the palace of Ashurbanipal using cataloging practices. And judging by the high standing that Greek culture held among the Romans, the project appears to have succeeded. In the Library of Alexandria, it was not just a century of scholarship and a statement of grandeur, it was also an attempt to Hellenize the newly conquered territories. While in Imperial Rome, libraries were both centers of knowledge as well as power structures with hierarchies, political appointments, and some direct control of the kind of materials made available to the public. The collections in Roman libraries, both public and private, were in fact typically subdivided by works in Greek and those in Latin. This became extreme in the case of Christian writings, which were banished by most emperors before Constantine's rule, but were to become the predominant text in later centuries when the opposite phenomenon took place. Greek and Roman classics were suppressed or marginalized. The catalog reflected this epistemological shift and was informed by the institutions. The work by 6th century scholar and monk Cassiodorus, it became the book list for monastic and cathedral schools and the basis for the curriculum in medieval universities. The Bible and the commentaries of the Church Fathers constituted the core texts. Grammar and history, science and mathematics contributed to the appreciation of God's creation. So I think that would be all. Thank you for listening.